Thank you, Gray. My guest today is Miss Denise Albert. I call her a doer. And after just hearing what she did this week, she is definitely a doer. She was on TV, on Arkansas Style. She just told me this week. She had a ribbon cutting ceremony this week, and she sold her house this week.
Bam.
And it's like only Friday. Well, I guess that is the end of the week. That's a lot, though.
You got one whole extra day.
She holds a bachelor's degree in dietetics, a master's in public health, is a wife, mother of two, serial volunteer, and most recently owner and founder of Cooking in Bloom in Little Rock, Arkansas. Denise is filling the shoes of many forgotten grandmothers through the mission of her business. Cooking in Bloom teaches students from pre-K to 12th grade how to cook. An honorable and important mission. Her hands-on classes connect kids to the sights, smells, touches, and taste of food. Denise says, taking care of our bodies and our environment are life skills that are missing from most school curriculums. And she adds, it is important for children to understand that balancing meals to make them more nutritious and taking care of the immediate environment can have a great impact on their future, the future of their community, and the world. In addition to turning on 4 of the 5 senses to the joy of cooking, she teaches her students about sustainability life choices and the whys of taking care of our environment and how it directly affects the plants we eat and therefore our overall health and well-being. Her mission of advocating for nutrition and education on how to Her mission of advocating for nutrition and educating on how it impacts our life from the cradle to the coffin is close to my heart. It is with great pleasure I welcome to the table the doer, founder, and head cook and bottle washer of Cooking in Bloom, Miss Denise Albert. Hey, friend.
Hi, thank you so much.
After reading about you.
That was so fun. Oh, my gosh.
After reading about you and all you do, it's obvious to me you're not in this for the money. This is your passion.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, the money's good,
Is
hopefully.
it?
Well, sure. Hopefully one day,
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about, the money end, but
by the hour, you put in a lot of hours and a lot of time. I have been looking at all you do all the time, and I thought, well, I hope she's not getting paid by the hour.
yeah.
That would be
nice.
Before we
monetize all that would be
Yeah,
great,
right.
but that's okay.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts of your business and your students, let's talk about your background and why you're qualified to teach nutrition and how you came to live in Little Rock, Arkansas. You have a bachelor's degree in dietetics.
Yeah.
Am I saying it right?
You are. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Describe a dietitian's degree.
Yeah, so it's 4 years and then a 2-year internship. And if you want to specialize, it can go longer. But you have to sit and do your internship in order to sit for the registration exam. So it's no small potatoes.
I never
and it's
would
a
have
very
thought
scientific degree. So, I enjoyed science for sure, and the science part of nutrition.
I didn't realize that bachelor degrees had a working, what'd you call it afterwards?
An internship.
I didn't realize bachelor's degree had an internship.
Yeah, for dietetics.
Do any other bachelor's degree have a internship? I can't think of
sort
any.
of, kind of. It depends. Well, I think you're thinking like field experience for completion of the degree.
Yeah.
And so, yes, some of them do.
Yeah, for dietetics, you have to have an internship in order to sit for the exam.
I love that. All right, let's talk about Masters in Public Health. Why did you decide to continue your education and go on?
Well, I worked at the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics. That was one of my first jobs. And I was one of those, and I still am. I was always setting goals for myself and trying to attain that next thing. And it was just time for me to get my master's. And I'm just really glad that I did. And there I was at the University of Iowa. It's a great university. That's where I'm from. Sorry.
Cedar Springs.
And, I know. And I just decided to go for it. So.
You worked 15 years total, I think, as a clinical dietitian in hospital settings. Your first job was in Kansas City, Missouri. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was a wonderful experience. It was, moving away from home. It was doing something completely on my own. And it was scary and it was exhilarating all at the same time. but I learned so much, of course, that being my first job out of university. And, I got to see children, and their moms that were trying to do the best thing that they could for their kiddos by providing, them with the WIC vouchers, which I don't know if people know this, and obviously I'm very passionate about it, but, for every dollar, and this was way back when, okay, I don't know what the statistics are now, but for every dollar that our taxes go to the WIC benefit program, more than $5 are saved in healthcare cost, because with the program, women and children get a prescriptive food package that only targets certain nutrients. So in it helping to ensure that they get the right kinds of nutrition helps their overall health for the long term.
So when you see people, is this food stamps? Is that what the WIC program is?
Well, now it's called SNAP, but it's still...
All the same thing?
No, it's different in that they do get food. I'm not sure if they're vouchers or what they call them. We used to call them vouchers when I worked there before. But they can only get certain foods. They can't just buy anything.
So when you hear people complaining about food stamps and people are going and buying Cheetos and sodas with it, they're not.
With food stamps, I don't believe so, but I know with the WIC or SNAP program, they cannot buy those things. Absolutely not.
So for every $1 in taxes we pay, $5 is saved.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
And and that was in Kansas City about 15 years ago. So I'm sure that it's changed and it's probably a lot better now.
Well, I don't know about that,
we
but
hope.
anyway.
We hope it's better.
All right, your next job, you worked in Iowa, and then this one really also opened your eyes. And tell us about that program that you started in Iowa, the nutrition education program.
Yeah. So I started out as a clinical dietitian, and I did inpatient stuff. So, working with people with different, terminal illnesses, helping them increase their nutrition status or making sure that they didn't get malnourished in the hospital was my main job. And then after Greg and I got married, I decided that I wanted to make a change because, again, that's how my mind thinks. I'm trying to grow and mature and do something different, and this is kind of, getting a little boring for me. So I had worked for our cardiac rehab. Every now and again, she would page me and say, I've got this patient that I would love for you to see, one-on-one, outpatient kind of stuff. And she just offered me a job to actually come into the rehab department and actually be their one and only dietitian. So I'm like, sure, I'm up for the challenge, And so with that, I realized that she needed a more well-balanced nutrition program. And I'm all about, being multisensory with education because that's how my mind thinks, And studies show that if you can hear, taste, smell, and also see what you're learning, the more apt you are to remember it for long term. So I decided to start a nutrition program within our cardiac rehab exercise program at the University of Iowa that did all those things. So my boss, of course, to show her all these research articles and, look what I found here. Can I do this? Yes, absolutely, hands down. So she was such a huge advocate of me. So she bought me everything I needed to have in order to start this little cooking program for cardiac rehab patients who have had, heart attacks, vascular surgeries, all those kind of things.
Heart disease.
Yeah, heart disease. And that was my most well-attended class, as you can imagine. But it was really easy for me somehow, some way. I would just dream up these recipes that, were very nutritionally balanced and something that I knew that people would enjoy. And I just did it, And the room would smell delicious, and my boss was just absolutely thrilled. And of course, she loved everything that I did. So I feel like, not only the work that I did for WIC, and I did work with children and their moms, at the time, women in need, to fast forward what I did not only clinically for the University of Iowa, but then in the cardiac rehab program, really has rolled itself into such a nice package for what I'm doing now with Cooking in Bloom.
Yeah.
It's almost
It's
like
like destiny.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Just it was like it was meant to be.
And so you ended up in Little Rock because your husband got a job down here. But you had already married, had children, and was a stay-at-home mom, weren't you?
I was, yeah. And to be totally honest, when Greg and I got married, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be a stay-at-home mom. Even knowing, because people are like, oh, you knew what your husband did. You knew that you weren't going to have a life,
Well, your
blah, blah.
husband. Tell your listeners what your husband does. He's a doctor.
Yes, he's the chief of neurosurgery at the Children's Hospital. Yes, ma'am, he is. But you know what? I didn't realize how my life was going to change really until we had children. And nobody can really talk you into understanding the perspective that you have once you have a child. It completely, for me, changed 360.
There's two things you cannot describe to anybody. What it feels like for your parents to die and what it feels like to have a child.
Yes.
Those are indescribable.
I agree.
That's the only two things I can think of.
So after Cameron was born, my son, who's now 15, I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. I don't want him to go to daycare. I don't want somebody else. Wait a minute. What is my role here? Do I hand my child over to, this person that, yes, I vetted this person and I trust this person to take care of my child, but then what's my role? I had this weird crisis. I became in kind of a crisis mode of my mind. Like, what is my role here? And the first time I had to stay at home was when we moved to Canada so that Greg could do his fellowship. So I quit my job. And my boss was devastated, absolutely devastated. I tried to quit like 2 weeks before we moved to Toronto, Canada, so that I could get our things in order and affairs in order. And she begged me, please, I can't have you gone for 2 weeks. So I ended up working, right up until we left. With a small baby.
Did I call her a doer?
I think you did.
I think I nailed it.
So anyway, we get to Toronto. It's the first time, really as a stay-at-home mom. And, oh, my gosh, I just really, again, my mind works in setting goals for myself. What's the next thing for me? And all of a sudden, I'm in this house that we rent in Toronto, new place. Toronto's awesome. We absolutely had the best time. With a 2-year-old by myself all day long.
Because your husband's a head of neurosurgery or whatever.
At that time he was a fellow, and he was like never home.
Doing surgery every day.
Got
lots of money he can't spend because he's never around.
Never there.
It's like, oh, we got all this money. We can do anything we wanted, but we don't have any time.
Yeah, but and I have this 2-year-old, and then I realized, how do I become a mom in this moment? It was just a huge awakening and learning process for me. I'm here with this 2-year-old, and the lovely thing about being there in Toronto, there was a lot of women that lived in this area that was about 3 miles outside of city proper, that were in my same age bracket, had kids in my same age bracket, were educated, staying at home for a time, and so...
You had a lot of good support group.
Thank you, yeah. So I learned from them.
How to do it. Well, and did you have your second baby in Toronto, in Canada?
I did, and that was an accident.
Well, aren't they all? Does anyone ever plan a child? I don't know. I think some people do.
And the funny thing is again, Greg being in fellowship,
he had to have come home one time at least.
Well, and my neighbors, it was so funny. My neighbors called him my snuffleupagus husband because he was never home. They were like, are you sure you came here with a husband? And then all of a sudden,
I'm hugely pregnant with Grace, my second. And
they're like, it's
they were
Rosemary's
like,
Baby.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, he's
how
real.
did all of this happen?
So
wasn't
anyway,
supposed to happen there.
now you've moved. He's taking another job, so he's going to and you hear about this job in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Tell how that came to be.
Well, so Greg, my husband, does academic work. So he, it's a very small, not only skill set, but then job search, really, because, he does academics and he does research and he, teaches and, all those things. So I think when he was finished with his fellowship, there were like maybe 4 or 5 positions available that met his criteria in academics. And he interviewed all, and he went on the Little Rock, Arkansas, or the University of Arkansas interview because his mentor in Toronto knew the gentleman that was the head of neurosurgery here, and so Greg did it on a favor. Because we're
like,
city
Little
people.
Rock, Arkansas,
on
no
a
way.
We're like big city people. We
Yeah.
were really wanting to move to a bigger city, maybe live downtown, with our kids. And so Little Rock, Arkansas, and Greg's like, honey, I'll just fly over there. I'll do the interview. Dr. Drake will be thrilled, that I do this. And he comes to Little Rock and the Children's Hospital, and he was so just absolutely blown away. And of course the Children's Hospital is just a fabulous, top-notch facility. They had everything in place for his research. His specialty is actually epilepsy.
Children's epilepsy.
Yep, children's epilepsy. So they had all of those things in place. And he's originally from Connecticut, and he really felt like the environment and, the beautiful trees and the terrain of Little Rock reminded him of home, and just a really great place to bring his family.
Where'd you meet him?
At the University of Iowa, when I was there.
Does he talk?
No.
Guys that are that smart never talk.
You've met him.
I know. Yeah. We're just confirming.
It's a little bit embarrassing, because he's so
definitely a
quiet.
silent type.
He's very cerebral.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Were your parents cooks? What did your parents do?
So my mom was a secretary, very blue collar. My dad worked in a factory.
No,
He was
really.
a manager of a factory. So yeah.
That's wonderful. All right, this is a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Miss Denise Albert, founder and instructor of Cooking in Bloom, a school that educates students from pre-K through 12,
Say it again.
a school that educates students from pre-K through 12th grade on how to cook. Still to come, the classes, the food, the kids, and how to register. The business of Cooking in Bloom, entrepreneurial startup talk, my favorite, and we'll find out her favorite recipes and cooking tips. We'll be right back. When did the idea of Cooking in Bloom come about? And by the way, great name, Cooking in Bloom. Who named it?
I did.
Great name.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So talk about the first year.
So, we were talking about moving to Arkansas, and Cameron was 3, so we placed him in a pre-K 3 program. But when we moved here, I was used to getting farm shares that were delivered to my door.
What are farm shares? Oh, you mean like local farmers bring you food?
Like a co-op.
Community
Oh, I
shared.
gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so when we moved here, I couldn't find a co-op to save my life. But my husband was like, well, but there's a Whole Foods, And I went into the Whole Foods and I was like, oh goodness, this is not what I was used to. Because Whole Foods is a different experience in a large city.
Oh yeah.
And so Cameron's in school, and these schools didn't have outdoor classrooms, gardens and things like that.
Did they in Toronto?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I
And
can't
in,
believe
and
when
in
this-
Iowa, too, where I'm from.
Oh, I bet. Wow. You'd think Arkansas was farm. It's agri country.
Well, in Little Rock, it's always been different. Everyone I went to college with at the U of A, I did an ag program, and they all did 4-H, but they were all from
Farms.
not Little Rock, yeah.
They're all from farms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't believe our biggest industry is agri, and we don't have that.
Right.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and I don't want to generalize and say all the schools, just the schools that I became privy to when I moved here didn't have any of that, and they weren't
And
teaching.
a lot has changed in the last, I don't know how many years, 10
Right,
years?
exactly.
even?
Yeah, there's, there's quite a few more gardens, but, and they weren't teaching sustainability, they weren't teaching quality nutrition, those kind of things. So I really saw a place where I could fit in, with my expertise and my background, the things that I did at the university. I felt like, wow, there's a need here that I felt very qualified to fill. So that was sort of my little blip. My kids are still really young, and I don't know if it was depression or what, but for the longest time I felt like I had nothing upstairs.
It's hormones, honey.
Oh my goodness.
It is. Mhm.
I could just take
That's
care
how
of
you
them the
can
best
tolerate.
I could.
That's how you can tolerate kids, is because you dumb you down. I had 4 kids. I know. I was dumb as a rock for about 15 years.
I know, and so many women would tell me, how smart they felt like during their pregnancy, and afterwards I'm like, what? Wow, I wish that would have happened for me, but I felt so
I had a car
dumb.
wreck at every pregnancy. I pulled out in front of somebody. The list is just long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
But then, like I said, my mentality was I never thought that I would be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved here, and again, now we move here in a new place. And now it's my second year as a stay-at-home mom, and now I've got 2 kids.
Mm-hmm. Now you're really dumb.
And now I'm super dumb. and one in pre-K, and I'm still having that crisis of, what the hell is my role?
And I don't want to
the
leave
mother,
my kids.
and as the parent, what is my role? And again, like nothing upstairs, but maybe these little blips of, wow, I feel like I'm very qualified to teach something like this, and there's nothing available. So fast forward, a few years, I think Cameron was in the 3rd grade, and some of this fog is finally starting to lift. It took a long time, starting to lift, and I've always been volunteering, in our church and in the kids' school. And I realized, goodness, if I could work this hard volunteering and not getting paid, then I could start my own business,
Absolutely.
I could start my own business. But, a lot of that volunteerism, again, I feel like I am pulling from with my business. I volunteered in our church, as you know, Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, based on Maria Montessori style curriculum. I absolutely fell in love with it. Multisensory. I'd done research on multisensory. And how it just really brought joy, and that was, one of her biggest things, is bringing joy into the life of a child, but also inspiring them to want to learn. So that's why, with that program, we have all these little models and manipulatives and things that the kids can touch and see.
At church.
At church, yeah.
That you replicated in your food business.
Can you believe that I did that for 8 years?
No, it wasn't really that long.
It was.
Time flies.
So, and then I volunteered for the school, actually garnering donations by myself because nobody wanted to help me.
No, that's not one of the. That doesn't have a long line of people wanting to help.
I couldn't get even one person to help me. But gosh, the philanthropical part
Connections.
of people here in Little Rock, I just was astounded by. I was able to
nice.
raise money, just a ton of money for the school. And it was a passion of mine, obviously.
Which school?
Cameron and Grace went to the Anthony School.
Oh, okay. So their grade school. So you're volunteering at the Anthony School. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, from those experiences, and
my knowledge of this need for this kind of education, sustainability, nutrition, all the while using, multiple senses and knowing what I know about that and just having that desire to educate is how I finally started thinking about cooking.
What was the first thing you did? Went and got a business license at the City of Little Rock?
Yep, I did.
That's the first thing you have to do. If anybody's wanting to start a business, you have to go get it. They were $50 forever. And then they went up to $100. What are they now? You remember?
150.
Yeah, they're not much. Anybody for $150 can start a business.
Yeah.
People think it's a lot harder, but you just go out there, you get your business license, and you just start. And once you buy that, it's kind of like getting married. It's a commitment, and you do seem to. You're like, okay, I'm doing it.
It's real.
Yeah, it became real, and then I was able to start putting pieces of the business together, and what in my heart I thought would be a good, education platform for children from pre-K all the way to high school. Because, when I worked at the University of Iowa, I worked in adult land. I worked with adults. But now that I had my own children, I felt like I was more of a professional with children.
Well, and you've been volunteering at church, and you've been volunteering at your children's school, so now you've just moved over to children.
Right.
So how long did you work on your curriculum before you actually opened your first class?
Okay, so I feel like the curriculum has just always been with me, so it almost wrote itself.
So you lay in bed and think about food, don't you? I do. I lay in bed and think about cooking all the time. I don't look like it, but I do. I think about cooking all the time, and I love cooking, and I love planning, and I love the colors of the foods. You and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
I'm a foodie, even though I don't look like it, like I just said. But, do you? So I do. I'm thinking about all week what I'm going to cook, and my daughter does too. So do you do that?
No, I mean, I think with the curriculum, I do think about, well, how can I reach these kiddos, or how can I reach the kiddo that has a hard time sitting in their seat, because I want to try to create something that kids can really get behind and really have fun with. And it's a lot of interaction, in my class, kids get to taste, and they get to chop, and they get to dice, and they get to do all of these things, but I still sometimes have children who have a hard time just, really focusing. So I think those are the kind of things that keep me up, is how can I connect with that kind of kiddo.
It's the teaching aspect that you think about.
Right, because, really the cooking part, it's the draw. And believe me, I can cook.
Yeah,
and I have a very, I feel like, sophisticated palate. But it's really a means to get the kids engaged. And it's that multi-sensory exposure and experience that I'm hoping that will lead to those children to remember what I taught them about sustainability and nutrition and everything else. I want them to remember, because we've got all of our senses going, and I hope that they're enjoying
However
themselves.
they learn, you're going to hit one of those buttons.
We're going to hit one of those buttons, and when they go to college, they're going to be like, oh, wow, that food in my refrigerator looks bad because I remember what Miss Denise told me. And I need to throw that out because that's not safe.
Do people really eat terrible food?
Well, if they're not privy to
Really?
what it looks like, or what, yeah. Foodborne illness is a real thing,
Really?
Kerry. Oh, yes, yes, ma'am.
So your curriculum was easy. How did you get started on the first day? How did you find a place to do it? What did you do the very first day? How did you find some students? It seems like that'd be really hard to figure out, to tell anybody about what you're doing.
Well, see, I thought that would be the easy thing, to find students. But you are right. No, it wasn't an easy thing. So
customers are always the hardest thing to find.
Yeah, right.
If customers were easy to find, we'd all be rich.
Yeah.
So the Anthony School, where my kids were at, is where I piloted Cooking in Bloom. And I did a summer camp style program. And I decided to do for a 3-week camp, but 1 week break and then a next week, another week, and then another week, because kids are at the Anthony School all summer long because parents need that care. So I thought, oh, perfect. I'll plug in. I'll have the perfect avenue for kids to sign up. Well, I had to cancel the first 2 weeks because I had all but one child sign up, but I had 6 children sign up for the third week.
Slow start.
So that third week is really how I piloted the program, and it went wonderfully. It went so great, and the kids were engaged, and they loved the food, and they had so much fun, and we got out into the Anthony School garden, and they got to taste something from the garden and pick. And
So what happened when school was out?
well, I decided to try piloting at my house.
So, or not really what happened when school was out. What happened when school was back in?
Yeah.
Were you able to still do it in that place?
Nope, I tried. Believe you me, I tried, but they just couldn't bend their minds around how that would plug into the curriculum quite yet. And then for me, it was really difficult for some of the after-school enrichment because of my children at home.
Were they not old enough to participate yet?
They were, but of course I didn't want to.
And there's the truth.
Mother in
Yeah.
front of other people. In front of other
How do you
people's children.
adapt? So what did you do after that? So summer's over. You're being kicked out of your space. Now what are you going to do?
So I got in touch with a gal, Mandy Shoptaw, who helped me with my media platform. So she helped me with my website and setting up a blog and all sorts of stuff. And all this is new to me, so I'm doing the best I can to learn all of these things sort of on the fly, because I'm not super good with social media or anything like that. So that really made me feel like, okay, I'm going in a good direction. So then it was, putting on that hat of, Denise, the donations, the garnering donations, professional, because I started just cold calling Little Rock School District, this private school, that private school.
Did you get a bite?
Saleswoman born and
I did.
raised.
I got a few bites. Some bites that I'd been, working on forever, I still haven't received, but that's okay. But Pulaski Academy picked me up, which was lovely. So they were really instrumental in helping me just really hone my skills with the kids, because my classes were packed.
Great.
Full, with a wait list.
Great. How many hours a day were you teaching, instructing?
Well, two hours a day. This was after school enrichment. And then in the summer, and I was doing all this by myself. I didn't have an assistant, no nothing. I was doing summer camps. So every day for 4 hours, I would do a 4-hour summer camp.
Children, youth in the morning and teenagers in the afternoon?
Yeah.
So how do people enroll right now if they want to get involved?
My website, cookingandbloom.com. There's a pick list, or if you scroll down, it's a big button that says summer camps.
There you go. Are you full? Have you got room for more people?
I do have some more room, yes.
The pandemic made you get creative. They've shut down all the schools. What'd you do then?
Yeah, thank you. Gosh. So I decided to do some online things, and so I pre-recorded with my friend Mandy Shoptaw, pre-recorded some cooking classes and the curriculum. And it was kind of fun because I'd walk around my house and we'd go outside in my backyard's garden and we'd pick something together and, come back and kind of cook it.
Love that. So cute.
She's living your dream, Gray.
I know.
And then Forest Park was actually one of those schools that picked me up as after-school enrichment. And they decided to continue with me, so I would do Zoom live cooking classes with these children, 1st through 3rd grade. So their parents had to be involved.
I was going to say, yeah. Are there cooking on the other end?
Cooking on the other
Whoa.
end. And I'm telling you, it was such a phenomenal experience because I could see all of them in their home kitchens.
Oh.
Do you feel like there was this new element of reaching the parents too.
Yeah.
That was really positive, I assume.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I remember vividly we made, and I can't believe it turned out so fabulous, but we made my Italian street pizza with no cheese. Yeah, you get a child to eat pizza without cheese. I did. And it's because I educated them about if you go to Italy and you purchase pizza, maybe, on the street corner or on the street, sometimes it's not going to have mozzarella cheese. It might just have veggies on the top or maybe some arugula. So that's what we did.
Oh, that sounds good for tonight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Oh, it's fabulous. But so we actually made a pizza dough with yeast on Zoom.
With their parents and
With
everything.
parents helping.
How long did
And-
you have to let it rise? Not long?
Yeah, it's just a quick rise. We
Yeah.
use the quick
Yeah.
rise yeast, but
And you don't want much rise to me in pizza.
no. And we made a homemade sauce to put on top of it. We put our veggies on top of it and arugula.
And they ate it.
And they ate it, and I remember, so like you said, the impression on the parents, one of the moms screaming with delight. She could not believe how beautifully it turned out and how absolutely delicious it was.
And their child ate arugula.
Yeah, right.
Their child ate arugula.
That's
but-
so good.
All of these like little positive things that have happened are just exactly what I was hoping for.
And you need them to keep you going. If you
Yeah.
don't get the positive reinforcement, you're like, why am I working so hard to do something if nobody wants it and nobody appreciates it?
Yeah.
That's
I've had
wonderful.
people say to me, your recipes are not kid friendly. and
wondered about that.
and I take that and I realize in that moment that it's not worth me explaining to this person what I'm all about because they don't get it or understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not
Here
I'm
to let
not,
them eat what they eat already. You're here to you're here to expand their knowledge on food, not to
Exactly,
keep,
and-
not
and
just here's a kid friendly food. It's full of cheese
I was
and
gonna say not to feed the mac and cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. I love being able to allow them to taste something new and to get really excited about it. And if I've got a full classroom and they're sitting at a table with 4 other kids, and I've got a skeptical one that's like, never had arugula before. I don't think I want to taste that. It's too green for me. But you've got these other kids around the table that are like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever eaten.
Competitive
I absolutely
eating.
love this. It's like that positive peer pressure, if you will.
Yeah.
This child that's skeptical is going to go, well, maybe I should take a bite too.
you're going to have to label it competitive eating.
Yeah, right.
And the other thing that I love and that I realize, really as a public health practitioner and, and knowing what I know to how to influence the nuclear family and the community, sometimes the biggest avenue is to use children in that way, in a positive way, because I know, and this happens all the time, after a child tastes something they absolutely love, they get in the car when the parent picks them up and they say, oh my gosh, we've got to go to the grocery store, Mom. We've got to buy what I just had.
Arugula.
Right?
Can you imagine if your
Happens all
third
the
grader
time.
got in the car and was like, I want to eat arugula? You'd be
That
like,
happens all
"What?"
the time. So we
love
did
that.
a simple grilled pineapple. We grilled it because I'm all about the wow factor, just a simple pineapple dish on a kebab. No, we don't do fruit on a kebab. But we would grill the kebab. But anyway, we grill fruit and then they got to mix the yogurt and honey and a little bit of my cinnamon over the top, this Vietnamese cinnamon that's absolutely gorgeous. And then over the top of that, I let them cut and chiffonade.
What does that mean?
Their little knives. It's like little ribbons.
Oh, okay. Little ribbon. Chiffonade, all right.
Chiffonade.
New word.
And they got to put that over the top.
Because they've got plastic knives. They've all got these plastic
Yes,
knives.
thank you.
Gosh for plastic knives.
I know.
So who's doing all your videography now? You post it on Facebook, I think, every week, right?
Yeah. So I'd been a regular on the Vine for 3 years. They actually stuck with me during the pandemic because I had just meet them outside.
You're very comfortable on TV.
Oh, really?
Yes, you are. You're so
Okay.
comfortable you forget to put your lipstick on. I'm like, Denise, put your lipstick on. She just shows
This
up.
is my mother.
Carrie,
You are me.
that
This is my mother.
That is so intentional, though, Carrie.
Is it?
It is.
So you're not intimidating? So you look like mom in the kitchen and I'm not the movie star, or what is it? What is it? Why is that intentional?
Because I feel like there's just too much of that. You have to look a certain way. You have to.
You're exactly right.
You have to be a certain way.
I actually thought that. I thought she is doing this intentionally because it's about the food and not about you.
Yes, and it's about the education. And I want.
That is such a smart person's approach to stuff.
Mom and I are like, oh, God, we're doing a news approach or a news interview. We've got to make sure our hair looks
Now I have
good.
to tell you something.
What?
I cannot watch. I cannot look at
sure.
myself. I cannot look at pictures. Nothing, because of that inside me, and I don't. You know,
I get it.
feel like there's just too much of that in the world, and also, you know, when you're cooking. And I try to be as sanitary as possible.
Yes, you do.
You know, and that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Right? And you've got all these bloggers and these cooking shows where these, you know, gorgeous women who've just had their hair done and it's all sort of, you know, falling into the food. You know,
I don't like that
if they're
either.
going to follow me and if they're going to actually do the recipe that I just showed them to do, I want them to put their hair up. I want them to wash their hands.
I don't
Let's
trust
do this right.
I don't trust a thin cook either. Do y'all?
Good point.
There's this
Good point.
Italian girl who's always coming on, who's model looking. You know her. She's on the Today Show, and she's been on for years. She is so thin. I thought, you do not even eat pasta. There's no
You don't eat
way.
your food.
Well, I mean, yes, I do trust the thin cook, okay?
All
to
right.
be totally honest.
I love your tagline at the end of all of your segments on TV that you do every week. She's a doer that she does every week. What is your tagline?
Make today delicious.
Is that not
Oh, that's great.
good?
That is great.
And see, all these things just pop in my head. So I feel like I'm in the right space. You know, I feel like if I was outside the space that I feel the most creative and the most okay and the most encouraged and the most inspired, all this stuff just would not come to me. You know?
I was going to ask you if you felt like you were fulfilling your dream, but I'm going to mark that question off. You
Well, not yet.
absolutely are.
I mean, I am to a point, you know, and like I said, how my mind thinks, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, I don't know. But I'm always
So what is your next
moving
goal?
into a higher direction.
What is your next goal?
Well, I mean, right now I would like to have full classes. I would like to have wait lists.
How
for my
big is a full
classes.
class?
I can comfortably manage with my assistant because I have a chef assistant who's a certified chef from Pulaski Tech. 15 with 2.
That's a lot of kids
That's a lot
cooking.
of kids cooking. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, though.
But that's it. Any more than that, and I've realized that
Are there other businesses like yours around the country? I know there's not any in Little Rock, but are there
Yeah.
any other places?
I'm sure. Yeah.
You don't really know?
No, because guess what?
What?
I have this sort of jealous streak.
Compare yourself too much.
And so I will
wanna
Google
know.
things that are maybe service oriented but not directly are in line with what I'm doing because I might get jealous and I might get mad and all of those things in between. So I preserve myself. How's that?
You don't want to. You'll start comparing yourself to what they're doing and think you should be doing more and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I keep my head down and I have my assistant do that for me.
Oh, you do?
Oh, perfect.
Yes. So my
That's good.
so my social media gal, I'm like, can you please do this for me because my heart can't handle it. My heart just
Yeah.
cannot handle it.
How interesting. My heart
Is that
can't-
terrible?
No,
Is
not
that
at
a
all.
bad- is that a bad
No, I
thing?
think it's very
I've
sweet
heard
that you.
I've heard that
you
before, actually. Is that
It's FOMA.
yeah, right.
Or not? No, it's
FOMO.
not FOMO. It's because FOMO is the fear of missing out. Well, it sort of is FOMO because you're afraid you're missing on doing something or you're
Yeah.
missing
Yeah.
something.
Well, and like
And you're
you know,
comparing
if it-
yourself constantly to other people that are doing stuff.
Yeah, and like if one of their classes on a wait list and completely sold out, then it's like, why is my class not sold out? Kind of thing.
What does your husband think? The man who doesn't, the Sphinx? No, Snuffleupagus. What does he think about this?
He loves it. I mean,
Oh, that's nice.
He is. he's so on board with, because I think that he's known that I've sort of been destined to do this.
Interesting.
And any way that he can support me, he will.
I love that. All right, this is a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Miss Denise Albert, founder and instructor of Cooking in Bloom, a school that educates students from pre-K through 12 on how to cook. Still to come, we're going to talk about ingredients, spices, Denise's favorite recipes, cooking tips, fad diets, and more. We'll be right back. All right. You can tell, like I was just saying, that you are curious and intrigued by cooking, but you also are more inspired by the teaching element of your of children. So let's talk about some of your recipes that you say you have. What kind of taste did you say you had?
Sophisticated.
Sophisticated. She has sophisticated taste, so we're going to talk about...
Would you like to know what my favorite food is?
Yes. Pizza.
Raw oysters.
Oh, baby. Yeah, we're oyster fans around here.
I am not.
You're a raw oyster fan.
I am
I knew
not
you wouldn't be.
that big of a raw oyster fan.
Is it Dan then? I guess.
We eat them and we like them, but I would never put it in my... I mean, if we go anywhere near water, we want them. We had them actually up in Sonoma, California. The best oysters I've ever had in my life.
Oh, my gosh.
They could become my favorite food up there, but they come right out of the Pacific. They're right there. We went back actually the next day to have some more, and he was like, sold out. But I would not say that Gulf oysters are my favorite oysters.
I don't know.
No,
I would not
they're not my favorite. Definitely the West Coast.
Would you, do you like them cooked? Oh, you said raw. I was going to ask you, you like that?
I love them raw, but, here at Maddie's place.
They have delicious cooked oysters.
Every time my mom comes, we have to go get like 2 or 3 plates.
So we do too. So I wrote a blog about Maddie's oysters, and really and truly, people should go there and have them if they have
Your
not.
listeners are like, what kind of sophisticated palate does she have for food? But
Well, that is kind of sophisticated.
I think so,
oysters.
but whatever.
And some people say, and I love Tanner, Chris Tanner, and he was on the radio, but he has the oyster bar, and you have lots of choices there. But the Maddie's grilled oysters are so good.
So good. Oh my gosh.
And they're gluten-free, which is why I like them. Which you cannot get at the oyster bar. All of their oysters, grilled oysters, have bread on top of them. Everybody loves putting bread and cheese on everything. All right. So we digress.
Well, that's okay. So we were talking about recipes, and all of the recipes that I have written for Cooking in Bloom have at least 3 or 4 food groups. Okay, so what I'm doing with the kids is I'm layering food groups. Obviously, we talk about food groups, and I, make sure that they know them ahead of time. But in that event, I can let the food do the talking. So like for instance, we do tostada, where we have, and usually I use a whole grain tortilla of some sort. So I don't get the flour tortillas; I'll get the corn tortillas, right, which are whole grain. So
and gluten-free.
Yep.
Yeah. So guess what? I can talk about whole grain with the tortillas, right? And so for more of the, interaction, the kids get to chop and dice and do all these things with the veggies that they get to put on the tostada. And we use black beans as the protein, right? So we can talk about different kinds of protein, animal protein, plant protein, whatever that is. I can teach the kids about high quality protein. And on today's recipe, we have black beans, right? Which is a complementary protein with the tortilla.
Oh, sure.
And they get to mash the black beans. I have them mash them because, again, as much as you can get a child involved in the process, if you have a child that is not willing or wanting to taste, and they're thinking to themselves, black beans, I've never had black beans before. Black beans are terrible. I've had them before and I hated them. But now they're mashing them and they're seeing them and they're kind of smelling them. And now we're adding a little bit of spices to the black beans. And now we're mixing them. And everybody's spreading the black beans on the tortilla now. See where I'm going?
You're painting.
The food does the talking, right?
It really does. She's so smart. I watched.
So it's easy. It's so easy for me to talk about these things with the kids, but I understand the importance of them understanding food groups. And so with with the tostada, we can say, well, what kind of food groups do we have here? Well, we've got grains, a whole grain. We've got a good protein source. We've got veggies. Some kids will say, we've got fruit because we've got tomatoes on top,
Oh,
blah,
yeah.
blah, blah, right? And then I do let them put some cheese on there.
Sure.
So now we've got another protein, and we've got a dairy.
That's 4 food groups already, right?
Yeah. So I can say to them, well, for a balanced meal, for the proper nutrition for your body, what other food group is missing here?
What is it?
Well, we can say that, there's a little tomato on there, so we can call that a fruit. Most of us say they're veggies because they're not very sweet, right? But we don't really have a complete serving of fruit here. Because I talk about servings too. So, well, we can have maybe some grapes on the side, or maybe we can have a cut up apple, or something like that. You see where I'm going? So they can actually make a complete meal or a balanced meal.
And be proactive about it.
Right,
Yeah.
and be proactive about it. And I tell them that that's what I want them to understand. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we really should be thinking in food groups. What's missing? What's not missing? What would you exchange? If you didn't like black beans, what other beans might you like? Or what other protein might you like?
You know what I saw you make was onion jam, caramelized onions on a French sandwich. I was like, what in the world is that?
For the kids? Oh, I love that. I love that.
You put honey, and she sauteed, was it a purple onion or a white onion?
That one was a purple onion.
She sauteed a purple onion, which I guess you could do either.
And caramelized it?
Yeah. And then she put balsamic vinegar and honey and put it on
Baguette or something?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds... y'all, I'm hungry now. This
with
is
some
killing
cheese.
me.
Well, it is.
I
It's midday.
I had some Gruyere cheese. And again, I'm not dumbing down any of these recipes.
No, you're not.
I feel like kids can handle these kinds of foods.
I think the way you do it, I think they can. And the way that you're so good at presenting and as you said, unintimidating and making it about the food and making it educational. You took strawberries and put balsamic vinegar on them.
Yep.
And then you grated, you use a lot of grated limes, zest, lemon zest.
Lemons, yeah.
Zest. And last night, after reading about you, I'm sauteing vegetables, and I thought, I think I put a little lemon zest on this.
Oh, good.
So I went and put some lemon
I love
zest
to
on it,
hear
and it
that.
was lovely.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, why aren't we putting vitamin C on everything? You could put lemon zest literally on almost everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot
Well,
of
and
things.
where I got that tip, obviously with my background, but when I was working with adults in cardiac rehab, they had to get rid of the salt shaker, right? A lot of them had hypertension, high blood pressure, sometimes, fluid accumulation in the legs and ankles, right? So they really had to be mindful of salt. And lemon zest and just lemon is a way to really enhance the flavor of your food rather than adding salt.
Yeah, that was a great idea. Where do you get your recipes from? Where do you get your inspiration for your stuff?
Well, travels. Sometimes I'll get, great inspiration. Sometimes stuff just comes to me like, oh, these, this would be nice together. But, the thing about recipes is, I feel like no matter how creative I am, if I Google it, it's definitely out there. Somebody else has done it. So sometimes I tweak it a little bit, like maybe with the lemon zest, or I've removed some of the fat, saturated fat, use something a little bit lower calorie-wise. So those little nuances, I can make it my own.
You have a favorite balsamic vinegar, don't you? What is it? Tell our listeners what you love, because I'm like, I'm going to get it. You talk about it all the time. It's Italian.
Yes, it's an Italian balsamic vinegar from Modena, Italy. Any of those would work. But my favorite balsamic vinegar, and I just ran out of it, was from Everyday Chef that closed at the Pleasant Ridge Shopping Center.
You can't get it online?
No.
What was it?
That's cool.
I don't know. I need to find out where she got that because I
What was the name of it?
It was just there, so it would come in a canister,
Oh.
and every 2 weeks or so, I would go in and just fill up my
Oh, I love that.
my
I
bottle.
So she
see.
served it in bulk, or sold it in bulk.
I'm telling you, it was.
What made it
from
better than all
Italy.
the others?
It wasn't as pungent, or it didn't have the acidity that some of the balsamic vinegars
Yes.
do, and it was real rich and dark and
Molassesy.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
And so
I'm hungry.
It picks up the sweetness then, right, of fruit or anything like that. But then it also picks up savory notes of anything that you add to
Well,
it.
you mix it a lot with honey. You do balsamic vinegar and honey, and I always did raw sugar and balsamic vinegar, but I think I'm going to switch to honey now. You put a lot of zest on everything.
Yeah. So see, and all this to really push the palates of the kids that I serve with Cooking in Bloom. You know, I'm those kind of things are adult flavors, and I know that, but I feel like kids can enjoy it just as much. And the testimony that I get from parents is that, wow, my child was so picky before she took your class, and now she's really willing to try anything.
That's wonderful.
It is
And I
wonderful.
feel like, you know, one of my goals has been answered. But you know,
You're a dietitian. Do you write a blog? I didn't see one.
yes,
you're-
I have a blog, but it's mainly about sustainability and what I do with Cooking in Bloom, but
Okay.
nothing else.
But that's what I meant. You write a blog. Do you put recipes on the blog, or should people get them off of Facebook?
Oh, both.
Either one. And then, being a dietitian, what is your opinion on meat versus versus being a meat eaters versus vegan eaters, vegetable eaters? Because I've had on vegans who are like, never put a piece of meat in your mouth, and I've had on people who are just carnivores, and they are like, never put a leafy vegetable in your mouth. I mean, they are very, and it works for them. Both of their diets work really well for them, which leads
And they
me to
have-
think that no one size fits everyone.
Right.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. But to vilify one food group over the other, I take pause with that. Just, you want me to say that?
I don't care.
So there's,
Yeah, sure.
you know, I mean, definitely there's, you know, cuts of meat that you can get that are better for your body than, you know, cuts of meat that are of lesser quality. The same, you know, with vegetables.
How do
it's
you
a balance.
How do
know,
you
really,
address
it's a balance.
food allergies with your kids? Because every kid's got them these days.
I take them very seriously, very, very seriously, and I'm glad that I have the knowledge to take them seriously. So if I do have a child in a class that has, well, first off, none of my recipes have peanuts or any type of peanut butter, ever. I do have a recipe where it's a sauce. It's like a peanut sauce with noodles, like a
Pad Thai.
Yeah, kind of like pad Thai. I'll use the sun butter, which is
Oh,
made
yeah, okay.
from sunflower seeds. But that's only one recipe out of the hundreds of recipes that I have. But milk and dairy allergies, I take very seriously. I always buy the alternative because thankfully now there are alternatives to all of that. But yeah, peanut allergies and things like that we take very seriously. And I'm all about accommodating a child that needs
What
anything
about
else.
we also had a guest on here who really has gotten healthy. We've had one guest on here who's gotten really healthy through intermittent fasting. She's curbed a lot of her conditions that she had, thyroid problems, lots of thyroid problems through intermittent fasting. And then we had another person on here who got healthy through counting macros.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, no one size fits all. And if it works for you, then awesome. But again, those that vilify one way or the other, I take pause with. But yes, intermittent fasting, a lot of people have had success with that. The Atkins diet, a lot of people have had success with that, right? And the list goes on and on and on and on. I wish I could have monetized that. Right? I remember, and this was so many years ago, and I worked with allied healthcare professionals at the University of Iowa, and one of the pharmacists and I, there were some little dust bunnies around the hospital. This is the University of Iowa is a huge hospital system, huge. Every discipline known to man is under one roof, right? It's almost a 1,000-bed facility. Anyway, little dust bunnies. And I said to the pharmacist, like, you know what, we should we should put those dust bunnies in a capsule and sell it as extra fiber.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Fiber pills, or something like that.
So do you have a 4th of July menu suggestion?
4th of July.
It's coming up. What
is.
should we cook for 4th of July when all the family's coming over?
Yeah. So
Or what are you probably got something planned already for your videos.
We love to grill. Grilled fruit is one of those that's absolutely lovely around the 4th of July with a little drizzle of honeyed yogurt over the top. And what I like to do with my spices, because I do have spices that I had specially curated for the kids. They get to take it home. But I've got this Vietnamese cinnamon that is just top-notch and out of this world. But over that grilled fruit with the yogurt, honey, little pinch of cinnamon, and it is just divine. But what I love about some of these spices, especially cinnamon, I mean, I would open that for you so you could see, but if you pinch just a little bit of it, it aerates into the air, and then, your employees over here will probably start smelling it.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so powerful and it gets, pushed through the air. So that's another thing that I'm very intentional with the kids, with these spices. They get to pinch and they get to smell. They can taste these if they want, but you know what? Now it's in the air and it's making the room smell so good.
You love thyme. I noticed you use thyme a lot, and you brought me some thyme that you've had specially, what did you call it, curated?
Did.
Let me see it.
Yeah, well, this is my Herbes de Provence.
What's that?
Well, it's it's a spice that you can use on anything, meats to vegetables, to your salads, whatever.
Really?
Yeah,
What's the other one?
All of these. There's my cinnamon.
I get some Vietnamese cinnamon. I'm thrilled.
I love it.
And this lemon
you can
thyme.
put that in your coffee too if you like.
Oh, I
And then
will.
this lemon thyme is one that I had made for cooking in bloom.
You use a lot of lemon thyme.
I do.
And
I love it.
I would use thyme last night and the lemon zest. I was just all about everything she said on there.
Did you see the video that I did for the fall dish with the onions, apples, and thyme?
No, but I love onions and apples sautéed.
And thyme. That
It's one of
sounds
my
so
favorites. It's just like caramelized onions. Saute your apples and then add some fresh thyme.
I'm in.
It's
Good.
just
That
amazing.
sounds great. Skillet apples are so
Well, and
good.
also, just caramelizing onions, I tell the kids that that's such a memory maker. I mean, my mom's Italian and everything was from scratch. But, I'd come home and she'd be cooking spaghetti sauce all day on the stove. Those are the kind of things that make memories, right? You walk in and you smell onions and garlic and, all sorts of things. So I tell the kids, I'm like, wow, onions and garlic are such memory makers.
They really are. All right, this is our last break. We've been speaking with Miss Denise Albert, founder and instructor of Cooking in Bloom, a school that educates students from pre-K through 12th grade on how to cook and make healthy lifestyle choices that will impact them forever. We'll be right back to recap and give contact information. As they say in the business, we will reset the table for our listeners. If you're just tuning in, we're at the end. I'm going to give you all the contact information from Denise. Looking back at the startup of your small business, what has been unexpected, or is there anything you would have done differently? That's a big question.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it.
I think what's been unexpected is all of these contacts that I've made, with the schools here in Little Rock and others. I would say less than 50% has been, an advocate of what I'm doing, I guess. So that was a little bit surprising. Because I just thought, I have this great idea and everybody needs it.
And I'm going to cook all day, and then you have to
and I
turn-
can do this, and I'll just plug into the library, and I'll just plug in all these places.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't work out that way.
Pretty soon you'll have an assistant that'll do, or your office manager. That's the first job to give away. Just FYI for all those new entrepreneurs. Everybody always wants to.
All the administrative work.
Yes, and everybody always wants to hold on to it, and I always say that's the first. And they're like, they can't do that, and I'm like, oh yes, they can. You are the personality of the business. You need to give away the desk job stuff first.
Yeah, and see, and I'm kind of looking forward to doing that. As
Good
long
for
as
you.
you can find people that you trust and that would work on your behalf, and be as passionate about what you're doing as you are. I think sometimes that's a big hurdle, to find somebody that is just as passionate.
Well, for teachers, you definitely need them to be passionate.
Yeah.
I love this quote of yours. You said, studies show that the more senses are involved in learning, the more information is retained. That is my goal. If I can get them to remember just one thing they learned about nutrition and taking care of their bodies and our environment, I've done a good job.
Yeah. Yep. That's
Eating right is sustainable. Remind us again how to sign up for classes and learn more about Cooking in Bloom, a hands-on cooking experience for children, pre-K to 12th grade. Remind us again how to sign up.
Yes, cookinginbloom.com. It's all on my website. There's a pick list, or they can just click on the button.
And you've got a
They scroll
Facebook
down.
page
Yep.
that you post to. You have a social media person that helps you post to that a lot. So you can
Yes.
see lots and lots of videos. You're very comfortable in front of the camera. And then do you have a YouTube channel?
Well, I have a bit on YouTube, but not a lot. Should I?
I don't. There is so much to do in the 21st century when it comes to small businesses and getting
Yeah.
your word out there. It is tough.
It's overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming. I'm glad you have somebody helping you with it. Well, you probably have to store your videos somewhere.
Yeah.
So you might as well store them on your YouTube channel. So do you have a Cooking in Bloom YouTube channel?
Yeah, it would just be Cooking in Bloom.
So yes.
And I've only got a few, some of my really early stuff on there.
There's no reason you shouldn't be storing
Okay, got it.
all of your videos there.
I will.
You're posting them to Facebook. You just need to go ahead and post them to your YouTube channel. And you can group them also on your YouTube channel.
You know what I'm thinking in my head right now?
What?
About my videos is what you said about not having my lipstick on.
Sorry.
I know. But that's okay. Because
That was your
that's why
goal.
that is my goal. It is very intentional.
They make a really pale lipstick you could wear. Leave it to me. All right, here is your gift today. It is a Iowa flag, a Missouri flag,
Oh gosh, thank you.
an Arkansas flag,
Oh, that's so kind.
and a U.S. flag for all the places you've lived and learned. I didn't
Oh,
realize
thank
you'd
you.
been in Canada, or you'd have a Canada flag also where your children are born. I'll have to get you one and send it over to you.
Just one child. Grace was born there, so.
So Denise, give us your every show sign off.
I hope you make today delicious.
Perfect. Thank you. In closing, to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.